2024 is going to surprise to the downside. I think, again, not collapse, not depression, but I just think that as everyone was on one side of the boat last year, negative, I think everybody's come back on the other side of the boat, positive. And yet, just about every indicator that you can look at from a macro perspective, leading economic indicators just made new cycle lows. I mean, like the lowest in the last 4 cycles. Actually, I don't know that we've ever, I think this is right, I don't think we've ever had this many consecutive negative readings of LEI ever. Like, crazy. And so that's one. PMIs are down. Now, PMIs have turned. Raul's been talking about this. I know you were just talking with Jim Bianco. Jim may have been talking about PMIs. But I think there's a lot of macro data that's a little negative. I think first quarter GDP is going to surprise a lot of people how low it is, but that's a cyclical thing. And even though they seasonally adjust, they don't seem to do it right. So it's always the lowest quarter. I think they could be closing in on 0. I don't know that it'll go negative. Depends on weather. You know, if we have a weather shock, like I haven't heard any forecast of polar vortex or anything like that. You know, in fact, to that point, it's funny. I haven't heard anybody talking about global warming anymore because we've had, cold weather. I don't know. But weather, I think, is the swing factor that I can't predict. What did everybody miss last year? That's probably one of the biggest things people missed was the third year of the presidential cycle. So there's lots of 4-year cycles. There's crypto 4-year cycle. There's this presidential 4-year cycle. The third year, so the year before the election, is always the best year of the stock market. It averages 16%. Okay? So on average, it's 16%. And that clearly is what people missed. And that fiscal spend, people had no idea we were going to give hundreds of billions of dollars to a bunch of money launderers in Ukraine. We had no idea that we were going to be back in another war that Ms. Yellen says we can clearly afford 2 wars. What? You're financing wars? Oh, that's what big money does. It finances wars. Central banks, that's what they were created for. Back in the 1600s, they've been financing wars ever since. So I think we all missed that, and that changes. The 4th year, the election year, is on average a muted year for markets. It's, on average about 6%, which is, not high, not low. But the swing factor is what you're talking about, which is we are definitely leaning socialist, communist, like handout, totalitarian. I mean, I hear some of the stuff that's I'm like, are we in Venezuela? Are we in Argentina? Are we in the Weimar Republic? I mean, that's actually a scary, scary thing. I read this. A guy did a long series of posts. I wish I could give him credit, but I can't remember his name. On Twitter, going through the history of Weimar. Oh my gosh, I had no idea. And you look at the things that they did, and you look at what's happening in America, it's like, oh my gosh. I mean, it's like the same playbook, like down to a whole bunch of stuff. My eyes were just like, why? I mean, yeah, my eyes were wide open. And that resulting hyperinflation, it was that could never happen because we have the world reserve currency. Well, guess what's happening right now? There's a chipping away. There's an assault on petrodollar status. And Saudi's now talking to Russia and China, and they're kind of giving us the hand to the face. I'm not saying it's going to happen tomorrow, but I think we're closer to a loss of control event than people think.
Bitcoin has exploded in popularity and is now the most widely used cryptocurrency. Possibility for expansion. Along with its widespread use and acceptance as a medium of exchange, Bitcoin's prominence in the economy has grown steadily over the years. Writing under the pseudonym Satoshi Nakamoto, a decentralized digital currency was initially described in an essay published in 2008 as Bitcoin. Not long after that, in early 2009, it made its debut. Bitcoin, being a decentralized digital currency, does away with the requirement for a governing body to handle or confirm transactions. According to what Nakamoto said, any electronic currency that is entirely decentralized and operated by its users would eliminate the need for middlemen and enable instantaneous online payments. I am beginning to see a slight decline in my recall. However, I do not recall a period when individuals were so mistaken, including myself, of course. Oh, I was totally correct. I'm not trying to pass the buck to anybody else. Enough said. I wasn't really certain, but after reviewing the liquidity statistics and a number of other factors, it appeared as though Jerome was determined to keep rising unless something went wrong. This was all based on the meter of no recession. I suppose the one thing that I believe was overlooked, and we should be somewhat acknowledged for that, is that we did discuss it, and in my opinion, we were successful. I will explain later on that we utterly bungled another part of the prediction. The fact that China has activated the liquidity machine was something we did touch on in November and December of last year. China injected $1 trillion. There it is again into the economy at the same time that the Federal Reserve was cutting liquidity. Well, obviously then, Chinese stocks will do tremendous. That was the one thing I got completely wrong, more so than anything else I've ever gotten. Markets for dragons will be booming. Additionally, it has been a downward spiral. We hit a 5-year low on Monday, and then the government announced plans to restrict gaming time, sending Tencent's stock price tumbling 15 on the same day. Therefore, I also cannot claim credit for that. However, it seems that individuals failed to notice the significant increase in liquidity. And then obviously nobody saw coming. Third biggest banking collapse in history. The Federal Reserve would inject an additional $300 into the economy if that happened. Therefore, it would be beneficial. Therefore, I believe that liquidity was simply overlooked by all of us. In the end, we are projecting some information, but as a group, we do have our own opinions, and this is a we exhibit. Crypto, we got it right? Yes, I believe we did as well. That was perfect. That was perfect. No way, you have no idea what was going on when individuals started throwing stones. The fact remains, nevertheless, that cycles do exist. Additionally, we persisted in discussing the cycle and our plans for the upcoming crypto summer, predicting that we will gradually approach fair value. We discussed fair value with Tim, and everyone finally grasped the concept of Metcalfe's law model. Even though the fair value is $51, we're now at $53.44. We have not yet reached the half point. We can still reach our destination by taking that leisurely drift. Fireworks, though, are soon to begin. For that one, I'm going to offer you a small compliment.